will share. Tell us when we are live on YouTube. Okay, good morning everyone from Dansk, European Solidarity, Center Solidarity. This is the third day of the Citizen Summit, Democracy, Ecology and Liberty Beyond Borders. I wish good morning to the people here in Dansk, reminding that we also have the set for interpretation, so if you want, you can help yourself. And to the people connected online, on Zoom, and following us on YouTube, YouTube channels and Radio Radicale, I think. So good morning and welcome to the last session that's going to be facilitated by myself, and last two sessions facilitated by myself and Marco Cappato. So to summarize a little bit what we've done in the last 2 days, we extensively focused on how participatory democracy processes, in particularly centered around European Citizen Initiative, can help transnationally to push forward specific demands on the three keywords of the title of this event and of the project, democracy, ecology, and freedom. We try to look at the intersectionality of these three aspects and the challenges and opportunities and reflections around the choice of using this instrument, which is the European Citizen Initiative. And then yesterday we also had, and I think it's very precious to mention, the Assembly on Feminist Solidarity, because I think it helped us to broaden our lens and to add a layer to the elaboration that was the output of the first 2 days. The goal of this morning session before 11 is to focus a little bit on how this potential wave of participation, or at least the interconnection between different activists, can and should play a role in the context of the European election in 2024, and what is the impact that we can achieve together or that we can trigger around the European elections. I leave the floor for a brief perspective from Marco, and then before 10:20 we should have our first speaker, but maybe Marco in the meantime.
Thank you very much, Virginia. And well, I think we can seize the opportunity of having a room more suitable for the numbers that we have for a direct debate on what we are experiencing here in Gdansk. My personal feeling is a huge gap, of course, between the ambition of our plans and also the quality of speeches, contributions, and even dialogue on open microphone. And of course, we were in an almost empty room of 400 seats. Well, we knew that. It is not a surprise. But I think we should read also politically what happened. It was not a mistake to try to organize this event in such a short time, because we thought we tried to act a plan for which there was no time. We could not wait. Of course, if we had like 3-4 months more in order to prepare Gdansk, I am sure that we would have been able to involve Polish civil societies, feminist groups, political parties, maybe the mayor, and so on. So why we didn't do that? Why we did not choose to postpone it, like in June, or because we tried to check the feasibility of a two-stages plan, European Citizen Initiative government plan on one side and European elections on the other side. And there was no time to wait. Why? Because the idea was that preparing and launching a package, so an overall government plan through European Citizen Initiative would have taken, we should have done it now, so tomorrow morning, ideally, going in Brussels to table our proposals, then waiting 2 months for the European Commission, which is the deadline for them to decide if they are admissible or not, then starting the collection of signature campaign, and through this plan, check around Europe if it was possible to create electoral lists and political electoral project around these proposals. And in order to do that, with the election in 1 year, or something more than 1 year, we didn't have time to waste. So we risked the convening of the first meeting in Bologna, which was easier because our basis is more in Italy as humans. But then we risked at such a short notice convening of a meeting in Gdańsk because we knew that we would have needed the whole summer in order to already work on the collection of signature if we wanted to hope that in some of the European countries it would have been possible to create electoral lists on the basis of this program. And this, at least in part, is a failure of this summit. We named as a citizen summit, and there were very, very few citizens. But it is true that the preparation of this Congress was very important, and I think that the quality of the speeches and intervention demonstrated that, because thanks to the, in particular to the tremendous work of Virginia, every drafting of every European Citizen Initiative was an occasion to convene meeting with dozens and dozens of organizations all around Europe, discussing together on the best way of drafting those proposals. This is a big acquis, is a big result that we are taking home from Gdańsk. The process that we activated was exactly the process that we had in mind. Maybe also this process should take a little bit longer than we hoped, but we didn't have any illusion about that. So this part of the work that we have done is there, is still in place, and is fully valid. And I think that the debate demonstrated how important is this basis. I think that it is effectively possible to join together different causes, different objectives in a pan-European citizens' participation campaign. What I think is no longer on the table is the second stage, directly electoral project coming as a consequence of this citizens' participation. I don't think it would be realistic now to go on that direction. This brings to, of course, this is my opinion, and it's here to be discussed. I'm not saying that this is a decision. But for sure, what we have to do is to go on, to let grow the process that we started. And maybe with a different timing. If we are not under pressure with the goal of trying to create some electoral list in some of the European countries, now we have more time to work on the citizens' participation project. There are European citizen initiatives where the drafting of the text is still open. There are European citizen initiatives where we know that we could, without too many difficulties, gather a much wider network, create a much wider network before the launch of the signature campaign. So I think this is really what we have to do. And the Citizen Summit was convened together with European Alternatives and Niccolò Milanese, so it's very important that we share with the European Alternatives the evaluation of these 3 months since when we decided to launch this process, and to understand how can we go on from now on, how can we combine campaigns on each specific topic, because of course there are people that are interested in legalizing cannabis, but they don't care about legalizing euthanasia. People who have as a priority of their life the migration policies, and maybe they don't care about citizen assemblies. And we have to respect that, and down the street it's easier to hook, to involve a person on a specific issue of immediate interest than on a government plan. But it's also true that there are strong interconnection between, among all these different goals. And for some people, maybe not the people of Europe, everybody in the street asking for that, but for some people, these interconnections are very relevant. We heard about, just to make an example, the feminist movement in Poland, how sensible they are on the issue of migration, Ukraine refugees, civil liberty, democracy in itself, the rule of law. So there are strong interconnection, and we have to build upon them. So the idea that was already translated in the document that Virginia circulated and read during the Congress, the idea of, anyway, starting with the creation of promoting committees on each European citizen initiative and on the whole of them. Of course, leaving open the possibility for individuals and organizations either to be part of a campaign on a specific subject, either to be part of the promoting committee of the overall program. Of course, last but not least, it is not enough to collect signatures or to promote together networks and promoting committees around some issues. It is important also to talk about actions. And actions can be focused in particular by those who are following a specific issue. Because personally speaking, because of the fact that I am involved with 4 potential trials on end-of-life decisions, I told you during the Congress that for me it would be of tremendous help to have some non-Italian, so to get this fight a transnational pan-European one. So I know what to do, I know what to propose. From the, I don't remember the name, sorry, of the Polish woman yesterday in a panel talking about providing pills from outside Poland to Polish women, this is something where probably there is the possibility of a transnational support, very concrete and very political, maybe also through civil disobedience. But she could know, not me, because I'm not a Polish woman and I don't know what would be the risk and the opportunity of having someone from outside Poland helping. It's always a very delicate issue. So if you do something like that, you have to do it because people that are suffering a specific problem on their skin, they ask you to do so, not because you pretend coming from Italy to know what's the best for Polish women. So I think that this opportunity that we have this morning is exactly to tell each other what we do really think is feasible, and even skepticism or critics. I mean, is not that we have. We don't need to tell ourselves, ah, yes, we have a fantastic idea, pan-European plan. We go, and the whole of Europe will be with us. We know that this is not true. It's not that simple. It's something that should be built. A lot of time is needed, but then we have to find out what concretely can be done to do a step after the other. And from this point of view, the fact of, in my opinion, not having the pressure of also building something which could have a direct electoral side, this means that we can work in a very, I mean, to build with less pressure on our project. This does not mean, and I'm ending with that, this does not mean that those proposals could not interfere with European elections. I still think that if we don't have the pressure of starting the campaign in June, but maybe if we do it during fall, like in October or something like that, we could still be able not to create a list, but to go to each and everyone, political parties around Europe, presenting lists and proposing not simply some abstract goals, but some goals on which citizens are participating and mobilized around Europe to propose those issues as a part of the electoral campaign, of their electoral campaign in that case, and maybe some of the personalities, organizations that are participating on one or more of the European Citizen Initiative of our government plan could also decide to directly participate also in the election. So it is not that the fact that we maybe don't have the ambition of directly creating list does mean there would not be a relationship between our government plan and European election, because the goal that was explained and also during these weeks by Virginia is to seize the opportunity of a new parliament and a new European Commission in 1 year time. And this is an opportunity which remains totally valid. So maybe we can postpone the beginning of the collection of signatures, but not postpone it of years, but of a few months needed to strengthen the building of this network and coalition around the proposal that we discussed here in Gdansk. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. I immediately give the floor to Antonio Argenziano, the president of the Young European Federalists. I know he's connected from Malta, and so we are super transnational today from one side of the other of Europe, basically. And I know it's in rush, so Antonio, your consideration as a federalist, as an activist, and as a person of what's the way ahead to 2024 somehow, and what's waiting for us there.
Yeah, thank you very much, Virginia. Thank you, Marco, Sofia, Ophelia, and everyone who is there. And so sad not to be there with you in the room. But actually, I'm in a sunny Malta, so I cannot complain. And just for you to know, we are having this Federal Committee of the Young European Federalists, and among the political resolutions we are about to discuss and actually vote. That's why I'm sorry and I apologize. I really have to run as soon as I finish this speech. Is we're voting a resolution on improving and reforming ECI. So I think it's quite connected. And then maybe it would be nice also to share our takes with you. Of course, now it's going to be a very important year getting to the elections. And I have mainly 2 points about it. I think that first of all, these elections will be a new challenge, because in 2019 there was like a glimpse of optimism because of the higher turnout compared to 2014, but the narrative was stronger and easier than it is now. Because 2019 campaign was the result, the follow-up of the years of 16, 17, where shocking events happened, like Brexit, Trump in a way that, of course, had a massive impact also on Europe. The migration crisis. I mean, it's an ongoing crisis, but still, and so on. And the political narrative was very much attacking the European Union as such. There were a lot of so-called nationalist parties and so on that were attacking directly the European institution. So it was really defending the European Union or attacking the European Union. And I think people answered. There was a let's say the pro-Europeans fought back after that. There was an encouraging signal. But now, if we think to 2019, the world is completely different, because we had the pandemic, we had the war in Ukraine, or at least the full-scale invasion in Ukraine. We are having other kind of crisis. Migration themes are still very actual, but of course the energy crisis, and now we are also risking to get into another financial crisis after the collapse of Credit Suisse and so on. So I think it's important to understand what kind of narrative could be interesting now, because now almost no parties are actually attacking frontally the EU as such. But they are just adjectivizing differently what Europe means. And I think it's important for you, for example, in Poland, to say that Europe means right. It's important to say that Europe means democracy. Now with JEF, we just launched actually on Friday our action week about democracy under pressure. We started this action in 2006 as a Belarus action to support the resistance basically against the regime of Lukashenko, but now we changed the name a few years ago in 2014, because it's not just in Belarus, it's all over Europe that democracy is under pressure. And if democracy is under pressure somewhere, it is under pressure everywhere. If rights are threatened somewhere, they are threatened everywhere. So I think that what Marco said before, it's really, really important. All these revendications, all these battles for rights, for rule of law, for democracy, they are interconnected. So I think that the only way to find an alternative, to define what Europe we have in mind, what Europe means today, is to connect all these battles. Because it's important to define it, because what is the Europe of the nationalists is quite clear. They've been saying it for years. It's a confederal Europe, so a Europe that is based on decisions taken by governments, on decisions that are not accountable. It's a Europe that is closing more and more the borders, that is accepting or not able to react to democratic gaps within the institutions and in the member states, that is not able to act effectively to also protect people and citizens in the continent, that is actually full of contradictions. So I'm not saying that the European project is collapsing or is is bad or etc. We really need to understand and to be very much aware of all the good things that the European project brought to every citizens. But we need also to rediscover them and to reboost and then readapt them, because we're used to say Europe means peace. Is it true now? I think it's healthy to have these kind of questions, because now, of course, the expenses for weapons are soaring again for the first time since the Second World War, because there is no peace in Europe. because there is no peace in Ukraine. There's still be, and let's not forget what happened in the Balkans, or what could still happen in the Balkans if the European Union does not have a role. So what can we do as civil society organization? First of all, I think connect each other, connect our political battles. Sorry, I'm in I'm the lobby of the hotel, so there's noises in the background. And second, I think it's focusing on citizens' engagement, because we need to rebuild trust for citizens. We need to change the narrative. I think that a very good way to put it is to have, let's say, two fronts. One of who and the political forces and organizations that are using negative feelings to build consensus. So who are using anger, fear, uncertainty to gain consensus. And on the other hand, instead, are political forces and organizations that are instead trying to build concrete proposals, that trying to build trust, trying to build concrete hope. I think we need to be those people, that European activism need to be there, need to be in that part. So I think, and I will conclude, I think that's towards the European election, we need to build an action that is based on three main words: listen to European citizens, engage decision makers, and then building a connection to the vote, because people will not vote just for the European Union as such, just because it is nice or it is cool or whatever. They will vote if they see the possibility to bring a change. So let me say also something about the Conference on the Future of Europe. Is something that with the coalition of Citizens Take Over Europe and also JEF and other civil society coalition, we invested a lot, no? And we see that the results are not being fully implemented. And when I'm saying fully implemented, we are still stuck with the treaty change process. And this is a very important point for federalists. It's not just about policies, it's also about structures, because structures are not neutral. Structure are meant to be in a certain way. We can say that Europe is forgetting migrants, is letting people die in the Mediterranean. But if Europe stays as it is, so the decisions are taken only in the European Council on the matter, and there is basically an external agency not accountable like Frontex that is supposed to defend our borders, this is the result. So we need to build a different institution. And so I think that it's important to connect all the battles, all the for democracy, for right, for rule of law, and so on, to connect all together, and to connect them also to institutional vindication, because we need to reshape, to rediscover what Europe is. We're going to do it also as Young European Federalists. Actually, we're going to launch our campaign for the European elections on the 9th of May, launching an online platform where to collect citizens' opinions to be addressed then to decision makers, because we still think that bottom-up processes are very important, very crucial. So I hope that the long-time cooperation with Eumans and all the network, also Citizens Take Over Europe, can continue. And I'm sure we will talk a lot about it, but I wanted to share these few thoughts with you. And thank you again for this opportunity. So sorry I have to leave, and I cannot listen to the rest of the debate, but we'll have plenty of other opportunity, I'm sure of it. Thank you so much.
Argenziano for the federalist perspective, and I also want to thank Sofia Ingrid Viviani, because she really was the one that helped us to have a strong federalist injection in our debate these days, and I think this is very, very precious. The second person that I'm going to give the floor from the online is Valerija Korosec, who is one of the people that was part of this preparatory process that we had in these months and weeks. She's one of the activists of the European Citizen Initiative on Unconditional Basic Income, and was also with us in Bologna at the beginning of February. I think her perspective on the electoral aspects of this project, it's quite important to be shared with us, but also her reflections on the connection between the Unconditional Basic Income struggle, specifically the methodology of activation through European Citizen Initiative. So the floor to Valerija to share with us her perspective also of what we have done in the past weeks. I think she's connected from Slovenia or from somewhere in Europe for sure.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much, Virginia. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can. We can hear and see.
Okay. So, yes, I'm talking from Slovenia, and from what I have heard, maybe I'm from another story, because actually I joined this movement with Virginia because I believe that we have to unite the whole European alternative movement should unite for European humans. It's actually the idea we started with Universal Basic Income, UB for humans. We believe also European Union should work better for humans. But of course, what we have to do is build, as my predecessor said, to build the understanding what Europeans and what we want from Europe. So we, Universal Basic Income advocates, think that first of all, we have to start with egalitarian approach, starting with equal basic rights. Of course, then we have to continue with freedom of choice and what we believe was missing, obligation toward culture, society, and nature. So yes, we have to think about, again, together, about what is reality of us, what is equality, how we perceive what is fair society. And then we have to think about that whatever we are talking about the problems, we have one common problem and solution, that is building better European Union. But how we can do it, it's actually the last picture, short story, that we have to help each other. That's why I joined very much enthusiastically to Virginia idea that people who gathered around one European citizen initiative should help to another European civil initiatives. I have to say that I'm trying to move the slide, but it doesn't go. But I would like to say that in Slovenia, I hope that's the reason I'm invited to speak here. Slovenia was 2 times among the best countries in getting national quota in signature for European civil initiative on basic income. And I would like to share the idea how we can manage and help to other initiatives. So we did the social initiative circle, you can see on the screen. We believe perfectly. We did a lot of coordination and cooperation with academia. We did perfect work with civil society. We went to the political parties. We had advocate on UB in each political party on the last elections. And during COVID, we found out that politics did hurt us. They did introduce basic income, but only by name, not according to the values, according to micro simulations, and nothing close to the idea of basic income proposed by Earth Network on basic income. That's why I'm here, because I do believe that we advocates have to join our forces and to go to the European level to demand you before you humans. And our belief is that if Europe cannot change, adapt to a better paradigm, then we are not very optimistic that Europe shall survive. And our plans are, well, I always thought that it's kind of loss of energy and time going to organizing all those ECIs just to build a network. I believe that we have networks. We did so many initiatives already that we should just gather those scattered people around us, giving them a good direction and go for European elections. And this is our goal. And in Slovenia, we will go in that direction. Thank you for inviting me to speak at this event. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Valerija. You didn't hear, but we clapped from the room. And thanks a lot also for the perspective of someone who followed and was very active in the process that has been designed and tried to be executed these weeks. We have some requests for online speeches, but I also want to invite maybe someone in the room, so we alternate. Niccolò Milanese, if you want, you can do it now. And then online, Monica Frassoni. Niccolò Milanese, co-founder, director of European Alternatives, co-coordinator of Citizens Takeover Europe, and 1 million.
Okay, thanks. Good morning. I tend to think a lot in metaphors because that's how my brain works and places. And so you heard me yesterday talk about the different boats that we launch from here in Gdansk. Impossible not to think about them with the cranes and the shipyards around them. And I think that, you know, in trying to discover new lands and new possibilities, of course, the important thing is to test the waters each time, no? And to be lucid enough to make an assessment of how favorable the conditions are. Even when you don't really know where it is you're trying to get to. But I mean, the whole history of European discovery is based also on this, trying and trying and trying again, often not knowing where you will find, and not being discouraged each time. So I'm always going to defend kind of utopian actions, personally because it's the only way to move forward, and also because even where one initiative may not be immediately successful, it provides some inspiration also for the others. The important thing, you all know the allegory of the ship of fools, no? The ship of fools in Plato and Erasmus and so on, where the captains are deaf and slightly blind. Now, what makes it a ship of fools is because the captains are not able to assess that the navigation is not really working. So utopian action, yes, but lucidity about the conditions and when it's time to try different things. And the waters, we already heard, are slightly different in different parts of Europe. And so I think it is to our credit that we might have different strategies, different boats going in slightly different directions from different parts of Europe now. Some may run in elections in next year, some may run initiatives, some might do direct actions. And that's as it should be. We should make this kind of diversity into a strength. I think that for me it's very important that the European elections, though, do present a certain set of opportunities, even if coming out of this process we may not have candidates all across Europe. The first set of opportunities are right now about how those elections are run. I said it already yesterday and I say it again. The negotiations about how those elections are going to be run, the electoral law, are happening right now between the Council and the Parliament. And frankly, civil society and movements are totally absent from these debates. It's not only about transnational lists, it's also about how gender equality is ensured or not ensured in these elections. Should there be what's called zipped lists, male, female, female, male, including the question of non-binary or not? All of these questions are being decided literally right now in the negotiations, and civil society is absent from them. There's a question of transnational lists. There's a political opportunity right now about European digital identity, which is also part of our questions that we've covered these past years. So longer time frame, yes, but being aware about the political issues we can engage in right now and we shouldn't be absent from. Then this period for me between the European elections next year and the appointment of the next European Commission is absolutely crucial in terms of the way the future of the European Union looks. We're all aware, we already heard also this morning, about the risks to European democracy in these days. And frankly, my prognosis for the European elections next year is very pessimistic indeed in terms of what the result will look like. So we have to be forceful, I think, and brave in some of the alternatives that we propose during this period. I think, and it won't be a surprise to those of you that have been working with me over the past couple of years, that there's a huge opportunity now to institute something like a European Citizens' Assembly. So we're not only talking about electoral politics, but also participative democracy. Some of us are already planning to test that, to make a pilot of that over the summer of 2024 in Athens with 1,000 citizens randomly selected throughout Europe to deliberate on a topic. So that's another boat that we're sending out. I think that this period is absolutely crucial. May 24 to September 24 for setting the basis for what we then do afterwards. So in this longer timeline that Marco presented, let's make sure that we have some key actions now influencing how these elections look like, and key actions between the elections and the appointment of the Commission, to make sure, frankly, that in the debates that happen following that, people can't ignore us or be unaware of us. The very first step we have to take is to be not ignorable in these debates, ever present in these debates, and right across Europe. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you very much, Milanese and Niccolò Milanese. And I wanted to take the opportunity to reply to Valerija that yes, I mean, I did a mistake in my speech without because I did not underscore the difference that her contribution made to our work. Because when I said that we did not find anywhere around Europe something, a reality, a situation of people ready also for the European election side. Slovenia is an exception, not only because of the presence of Valerija in Bologna, but also the meeting that we had on the European Citizen Initiative on end-of-life decisions. We know already that if there is one country, along with it, together with Italy, which is ready to collect those signatures, is exactly Slovenia. So I think it's very important, even if I think that the big picture remains what I said in my speech, but to underscore the difference in Slovenia, and so the opportunity also for humans to act, helping that something, as Valerija said, would be built, I think is an important opportunity.
Thank you, Marco. And I also want to thank Niccolò, because I think the goal of the Citizen Assembly is another common denominator that maybe we didn't underline enough in the presentation of the European Citizen Initiative. One of the ideas of the text that we have developed is that each European Citizen Initiative contains in itself a demand for a European Citizen Assembly. So it's a bit of a meta mechanism, but I think carrying out that goal, as well as the important recommendation on following up the development of the electoral law for the European elections, are important takeaways. I also want to mention something before giving the floor to the next speaker. With Niccolò Milanese, the way how the coalition Citizens Take Over Europe started was at the very beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, where we convened together the first experiment of what we called at that time the Council on Participatory Democracy. And that was an important stepping stone where we started to design, in that moment was the emergency of the pandemic, so transnational solutions to a transnational emergency, but also it's where the Citizens Take Over Europe coalition started with the main demand of starting the conference on the future of Europe, which was blocked by the pandemic. One of our key messages at that time was, in time of emergency, we need more democracy and not less democracy. And I think the Citizens Take Over Europe coalition is the proof of what Niccolò was saying, that you are relevant in the moment that you step into a mechanism that is apparently ignored. So I think somehow my interpretation of Niccolò's speech is, let's keep being relevant and be that part of civil society that has democracy as its center, because it's only through democracy that we can carry on the other demands. So it's super important to keep this in mind. I now give the floor online to Monica Frassoni, who is a Eumans member. She was with Marco, the co-promoter of the European Citizen Initiative on Carbon Pricing in the version 1, and a green and federalist person. So Monica, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to, as ever, to thank you so much for everything that you're doing. It is difficult and important, and I think that what I heard this morning, notably from what Marco said, showed very clearly this reality. I just wanted to say that everything really that I wanted to say was said by Niccolò. And I have a different interpretation, Virginia, or let's say a complementary interpretation of what his message was. And that is not to give up on the European elections, and longer term does not mean to disengage from the challenges that the European elections will take. And this is also a little bit what Antonio said. I think that there are places where it is possible.
Monica, sorry if I stop you, but there is either wind or a window open or something, so the sound is not ideal. I don't know if you can protect your microphone from the wind, which I guess is the culprit here. Try now.
Yes, I can. Is it better?
Yes, in this way is better, thank you. And I ask maybe the technicians in the room if we can raise the volume a little bit of the audio. Thanks.
In any case, I will be very quick.
Perfect now.
Okay, so I just wanted to repeat the fact that what Niccolò said, that my interpretation of what he said is also, as I said, not to give up on the challenge of the European elections, because as he explained, as Antonio explained as well, these are not usual elections. We have the tendency of saying the same every time, but I believe that this issue of democracy and the issues that are brought about by the different citizens' initiative are also very much linked, not only to the method, but to the capacity of these initiatives to have an impact in the determination of the majorities at the European Parliament level. So I was a little bit sad to understand that there is the idea of giving up on the European elections, even in some countries, in terms of lists. I hope that this is not going to be the case, because I think that would be a real pity, if you want. But I hope that this conversation can be kept alive somehow. And as I said, I don't need to repeat what Niccolò said, because he said it perfectly. But let's adapt the situation to countries. But above all, let's be relevant in this discussion. And according to me, one of the ways in which we can be relevant is by engaging directly where this is possible. This is everything I wanted to say, by thanking you again and again for the wonderful work you do.
Thank you, Monica Frassoni. Now Marco Perduca from the room. And I invite others who want to speak on this specific topic on electoral European elections, the approach to elections, to raise their hand both online and offline, so we have a sense of who want to speak. Marco Perduca.
Thank you. This works, yes. I don't know if I'm going into the business of using metaphors once again, but yesterday I think a big room with few people is also a good example of how things can get started. I think Sophia Ingrid told us about what happened in Ventotene some 80 years ago. To 3 people in a prison, you can imagine the feeling of isolation or loneliness that these 3 people could have. But from their minds and ideas and vision, we had, well, we're still trying to build the best possible Europe in a federalist way, but we had an idea that became an institution. Now, I think that there are different ways of replying to the question that what is or can mean Europe to us. To me, it doesn't mean anything, and I would say. And this is one of the reasons why I'm involved in this business of trying to activate all the possibilities that the European Union has been creating and offering to the citizens, even more than to the politicians, to try and have a continental set of actions that can be carried out at the same time or on different topics. The other issue is if those instruments are not good enough, one thing would be to have a great symposium to theoretically say they're not good enough. The other thing, and this is what I think Eumans was set up to do, is to try and activate those instruments and see if they don't work, why they don't work, and if possible, how they can be changed to make them either a different instrument or make them work in the way in which citizens believe should be working. For the last 30 years, more or less, we've been I think Marco and I more than others, we've been following debates within so-called political families. So that the European liberals, the socialists, the Greens, the Christian Democrats. So we've been hanging out with the liberals more than other groups. And the kind of debate that you have within one of those European political families is completely different than the type of debate that you can have within a group where you have citizens coming from all over the European Union. Not because they don't address the same things, but the preoccupation and proposals that they have when it comes to raise some issues are completely different than what their electorate would like them to talk about or would like to see happening. And so if there is a way to go back with the lesson learned in Gdansk, and I agree with Marco, we didn't have enough time to prepare a bigger summit or to have a summit, I would say, and with a wider participation and a more meaningful discussion, does not have the assignment is not to go back and think, but to try once again and do things so that the time that separates us to the summer or the beginning of a more European election-oriented kind of mobilization is exploited to perhaps start with 1 or 2 ECIs, because I think cannabis could be a good example where we have a good text already. There's groups joining along the way, and it's a very popular theme that nobody wants to include in their electoral platform, or at least they put a marijuana leaf on their symbol, and then they believe that everything is done thanks to Instagram and stuff like that. But it's not. This is not the way in which it works. So we have to try and be as active as possible, knowing that, once again, we go back to the almost empty room of the last 2 days. Friday we start. It's good every time Eumans has a public meeting, something good happens. So when we went to Bologna, our friend Niccolò Milanese, who had been arrested for almost 2 months, was liberated as an innocent person, but still under investigation for the so-called Qatargate. When we met here in Gdansk on last Friday, Putin was indicted for war crimes. So I don't know what's going to happen next time around. But both things are connected in a way because I had the same feeling we had in the early 90s when the Radical Party was speaking about setting up an international criminal court. 2 people that were doing completely different jobs, could have their own other kinds of problem, but also you had the expert coming to you and say, this is not going to happen. International law doesn't exist. So this was coming from the highest echelons of academia all over Europe, and also certainly the United States. They had the political problem. So we are always confronted by people that know more and so they have a lot of PhDs and in their CVs that explain to you that things cannot happen. And then in 3 years, they happened. And they are a reality today. And I think here we are once again at the same stage. So despite the fact that there's a lot of literature also being put together to try and demonstrate that certain things will never happen or cannot happen or are not just a little peanuts to the people so that they can enjoy themselves in trying to put together a European mobilization to legalize this or depenalize that or introduce digital citizenship or reform anti-global warming or pro-global warming things, because there's also the bad guys that are trying to organize themselves. I think the best reply would be mobilization. This is why Eumans is still a movement. Movement, usually we have thousands of people doing things. Well, it's also meaning the movement, to move means you have to move. And so our Polish friend yesterday said, you have to be the change you want to see happening in the world. This, I think, it's also the subtitle of a lot of political organizations today, but it's actually the methodology that should be used. If you don't do things, you will never hit the wall and then reorganize and do things in a better way. But if you don't do things, you're sure they will never happen, because people will always explain to you that it's not going to happen. So luckily, we've been able to engage people that don't have that kind of approach, even if around us we still hear a lot of criticism about certain instruments of deliberative, participatory, direct democracy. But the best reply would be, not a bad word, but would be, I'll show you if it can be done. If it cannot be done, and then at the end of the day, we will have to have a final political assessment of the instruments of the ECI, for instance, or the transnational list, or the ZIP list. I think what Niccolò has said before should become the next issue for our mobilization. So if it's true that the European Commission and Parliament are discussing the electoral system as we speak, or as of tomorrow, and we will have to try and find the best way to influence them, because it's impossible not to have not only gender representation, but 27 different electoral systems around the continent that will certainly have an impact on the makeup of the assembly. So, but do things, I understand it's maybe a silly thing, but it's what the difference between us and that. And we had a joke with Sophia Ingrid yesterday that she's only quoting men, and I'm afraid I'm quoting another man. So, as an Italian who 170 years ago was thinking about not only a Giovine Italia, but also a Giovine Europa. So I'm talking about Giuseppe Mazzini, who was always putting together thinking and doing, because otherwise, just in philosophy, it's fine, and that's the thinking. I don't know what's the doing, but certainly if you put the two things together, that's politics, and this is what I think we are here to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco Perduca. I also want to bring up a few ideas and principles and the definition of humans as a movement of popular and non-violent initiative. I happened to read a paper from Professor Claudio Radaelli, which I invite you to read, which is about the role of non-violence in the European integration process. And one of the keywords is self-organization as one of the methodology, tactics, here I can be corrected, of non-violence. I think we proved it in the past. I mean, we self-organized a disobedient list for the Italian elections to not comply to the law on purpose to get the judiciary aspects. We might see the same approach in the approach to some of the European citizen initiative, but also in self-organizing processes and citizen assemblies. So I think politically speaking, and I really invite you to look for this paper from Professor Radaelli, because it has a different lens on how the European Union can be evolved. So we have two other speakers on the room. I invite the others to, after the speech from Remy Bach, we close the registrations for this part of the debate. So if you want to speak, raise your hand in the room or on Zoom. Remy Bach. We're really thankful for being with us.
So first of all, again, thank you for inviting me. I know I'm a little bit off your spectrum of interest, all of you, I think, but I can bring some knowledge with working with parliamentarians. So what was super interesting for me for last days is to sort of catch up levels. For example, you mentioned you don't know how we do that. We send pills, abortion pills to the countries, how legal it is. Well, we have this knowledge, but for example, we are missing behind in collecting signatures for the white European areas. So I think in this way, if you look at this meeting served the purpose perfectly. I could learn from other colleagues. Second point, as you mentioned, there are some things when we have to stay separate. For example, like I see some people who are in favor of cannabis will be not necessarily in favor of abortion. That's obvious. Again, I can work with some conservative people who are in favor of abortion, paradoxically, because they have their own experience, but they are reluctant towards legalization of certain products. So this was also very, thank you for discussions yesterday. This was very good discussions to identify areas where we can work together. Working with parliamentarians now, as you mentioned, the upcoming elections, they are coming European elections, national elections here in a few European member states. Doesn't mean it's that period. It means that we have to work differently. Whatever you try to do at European Parliament now, correct me if I'm wrong, because you have inside experience much longer than I, are less likely to reach the results which we want. If you want to go with resolution important now, you most likely will not find an echo. And parliamentarians are now focused on the local campaign, so it's much more difficult to bring some significant resolution at the European level, like we had, for example, with Matic report. Doesn't mean we cannot engage them, no. We have to work them very hardly now. Imagine now, for example, now applying for, seeing many job open applications, and you have to get each of them because you can lose your life opportunity. Create an informal group with parliamentarians, make them sign up some statements which you can bring back to them after the elections, bring them some ideas, results, associate them with informal groups internationally also, make the works with different colleagues. There are many ways how you can engage parliamentarians at the national and European level, and you have to do it now. You have to do it now because then, as you mentioned, there's 1 year before or 6 months of before when the Commission is established, European Parliament is established, it will be very, very hot period and for all of us and very hard working period. And if you prepare for this period before, you have advantage over others. There will be a lot of enemies, frenemies, so for friendly organizations who try to compete with us, we all know how it looks like. Yeah. Some other points. I did not see much yesterday with discussions, for example, the horizontal, vertical cooperation. So, for example, working with parliamentarians on any initiatives, I cannot imagine engaging academia, parliamentarians, bringing us together in the even cross-field or even in specialized areas. This is something we can look for. More focus on the debate, in my opinion. So I get amazing speeches, I agree, for last 2 days. It also brings me a lot of thinking, which I have to digest coming back to Brussels. Thank you, Virginia, again for inviting me. But I think we could have more intimacy debate. Like today we have in the room here, understand that there was logistical restriction, everything. So I would, for example, for me personally, it would be very beneficial to have more opportunity to talk to each of you, during the conference already. This would be like startup day or startup meeting, something like this, so we can learn each other, initiatives. They could bring immediately the discussion to another level. But otherwise, yeah, I have many ideas, but I will not bore you to death now. So one more time, thank you. And
thank you for the enthusiasm and the type of energy that your presence triggered. I was afraid that you were one of those who come, give the presentation and go, and instead you are in the mechanism. So I'm super, super happy for this. Thanks a lot. And also let us know if there are networks like yours on the other matters, like parliamentarian networks, national and European, but I think this is also good for us to, because part of the impact is also the national level, whether we like it or not. So
that's the thing. There are some networks, but I don't see, for example, at House of Security or Health, I don't see much of structurized parliamentary networks. So maybe there's field for you to be engaged. It's usually where money goes easily because international organizations like to do work with parliamentarians. So think about it, really. Building up network parliamentarians is 20 years work. But I can see you like starting work with Polish parliamentarians 5 years ago. Again, we have very stable and very active all-party parliamentary group here in Poland, which country is extremely hostile to sexual and reproductive rights. So yes, you can, and there is no excuses. You can blame the reality that some countries are reluctant towards cannabis, and other countries. That doesn't change, as the colleague before me say. Yeah, you have to hit the wall a few times, and otherwise you can blame the reality. I was born in wrong country, in Slovakia or something like this. Well, c'est la vie, but if you don't do anything, then the country will not change, you know. We have Zaborska, which bombed a few our initiatives there, okay, but we bomb her initiatives also, thanks to it. Abortion in Slovakia, it's still legal despite 6 years of ultra-conservative government, so you can clearly do some things.
Thank you, Remy. On the hitting the wall, as a person with PTSD due to trauma, I suggest you try to stop before the wall in any case, because trauma is also not a nice thing to deal with. So maybe we can find a way to manage it. Sofia Ingrid Viviani.
Hello. Does it work? Funziona, sì. Okay, hi. Thank you very much for the discussion. That was really nice. Thank you, Antonio, if he's not connected anymore. I have two main points. One is more personal and / philosophical, and the other one is more political, technical. So the first point I wanted to make is I realize when we do such projects, not just with humans, but all this kind of organization in civil society, sometimes we are so busy thinking about the strategy and what we want to give as a message that we kind of lose the end goal of what we're doing. And I was just like, this thing pops in my mind, so I wanted to share with you. I'm going to quote a woman this time. So Ursula Hirschman, a great mother, founding mother of the union. That was really funny because she was the one that collected the Manifesto of Ventotene. So basically when Altiero wrote the Manifesto in Ventotene, he wrote it on cigarettes papers, because it was illegal to write, of course. And he put these papers in dead chickens. And Ursula in Italy, she bought like 200 chickens. She collected all the tobacco papers and she put it all together. She kind of assembled the manifesto and then she published it illegally during the regime. But anyway, she once said, I'm not Italian, even though my children are Italian. I'm not German, even though I was born in Germany. And I'm not Jewish, even though I was this close to be killed during the Nazi regime. But I am European because, see, she said, as déracinés, so people without roots anymore, people that have been forced to lose their roots, we have nothing to lose from a united Europe except losing our chains. And this is why we are federalist, she said. So I think, of course, we cannot relate to that generation. We can just learn from that generation, especially, I mean, I'm 23, so of course nothing. But I can just learn from that. But I think we can just relate to that if we think about our political strategy right now. Like, building Europe is not because we want Europe. It's because it is the only way to get truly emancipated, truly free as individuals first, as citizens, and then also as institutions. But that's the second part. Like, the first part is just us as citizens, as people, no? So I think we have to keep in mind what's the main goal here. And it's just, we're not European federalists because we are obsessed with the European Union. We are federalists first, and then we happen to be born in Europe, so that's why we're European federalists. And this means that if you are really a European federalist, then you want the world federation. You're a world federalist too. Federalism is on every scale you can imagine. If Elon Musk managed to get to Mars, we're going to be Mars federalists. It doesn't matter. We are federalists first, and then, yeah, we work on Europe because we're Europeans. And this is just the more personal, philosophical part. On the technical level, so I think for the elections, as Antonio mentioned, we already started a JEF campaign for the European elections. We have to keep in mind that European elections are always a second-order elections, and they are still like that, unfortunately. I remember in the election in 2019, we did this really nice project, and I think we can try to build it up again, which was organizing debates between candidates and ask them straight questions about Europe. Because I think in Italy, but also in Austria, that's my experience. I don't know very much about other member states, but I'm pretty sure it's quite common. The whole debate is based on national politics, where the European elections are something completely different. They have no competences on national politics. So we as a transnational civil society, we are the ones that have the responsibility to keep the debate on the European level. So forcing them to talk about Europe. And I think using the ECI could be a nice idea. Like the ECI, they're all federalist. And they're all transnational, so they're federalist. So organizing debate with candidates and force them to talk about the ECIs, our proposals, and force them to say, okay, what do you think about that? If you get elected, what's your plan in the European Parliament? What do we want to do to implement the ECIs? Could be a nice strategy. And also, again, networking, not in the sense that we need to, it doesn't matter how many people are working on the project. It's not about numbers, but it's just that we have different approaches and point of view, and I think like all together we can do something different. So that's my hope for the elections. And getting people to vote, that's the main problem. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, so we have Valerija Korosec for a second speech from Zoom. And then maybe I will ask Lorenzo Mineo to guide you through the order of the next steps for the Eumans Congress after this speech, and we understand how to keep open the debate and have a little break maybe after a bit. So Valerija, the mic is yours.
Thank you very much. I would like to tell you that I'm like advocate for almost 20 years for universal basic income. And I hit the wall about 10 times very hard. And yes, after each hitting the wall, can you hear me?
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Okay, after each hitting, I did exactly that. I've changed the direction. I've changed the organization. I've changed how to do it and with whom to do it. And that's why I'm with you. You are something new. You are something new, but on the other hand, you are exactly what I was looking for. Look, I have to tell you, when I started to think about basic income about 2000, I said, this is a very good idea. I believe in Slovenia we have to do it. But I didn't know that there is already Earth basic income movement. And after that, I found them, okay? And I learned from them, and I was so happy because I was not alone with my wishes, with my ideas. I found the people who already were on the same track. And after the second ECI, I found the people in Brussels. When I've met them for the first time, I have felt that they're my family because we share the same values. So actually, I'm only happy that you showed up. So I know that you are here. And we may work together or in the same direction, but this is enough already just to know that there are more than one person who is sharing our ideas, values, and directions. Oh, the last sentence. There's another change of direction. I'm organizing mothers. I'm organizing mothers for EU humans. You should not forget what we are ready to do for our children. Thank you.
I mean, mothers are always a good... I mean, if I think about Argentina and the role of mothers, it's kind of a good reference. So thanks, thanks Valerija for this. Thanks for the enthusiasm. We hope you also want to become a Eumans member officially, because I think this is what we need. This is type of intuition that we need. And I think also one human with each after the other. This is a bit how we're building this process. So thanks for the enthusiasm, the energy, the perspective, and also the fact that Slovenia is a bordering country with Italy, so maybe there is an element of interest in this coincidence that was generated through this path that we worked together. So I will leave a few minutes the floor to Lorenzo for a more organizational update on the steps that are related to the Eumans Congress and our obligations with that. And in the meantime, I suggest we keep still open this debate if someone else wants to add something. So please raise your hand in the room or online if you want to take the floor on this approach to the European elections and how they can be used by us without being used by them. Lorenzo Mineo.
Yes. Thank you, Virginia. So actually, the formal part should be quite quick, unless we don't have in the last hour still other documents that will be charged and submitted to the presidency. Because at the order of the works tell us that we are closing the presentation of documents such as general motion, possible recommendation, and eventual changes to the statute at 12:15 p.m. So in less than 1 hour. And at the moment there is only one general motion that has been proposed to Eumans, and still one candidacy for the charge of co-president. That is the one that we are voting today. So unless there are no surprises, we will vote on those documents only in less than 1 hour. So I suggest when we come back from the coffee break, we can read the documents that are submitted and then start the vote and opening the vote.
Thank you, Lorenzo Mineo. So I remind those that are following online that are Eumans member that you should check on the email that you have received. There is a link to the congressual materials. I don't know, congressual is a word. And you can use the info@eumans.eu email address if you want to send any additional material to be put up for vote. So I don't see actually anyone else registered to speak. So any additional comments to the electoral part, which can be tackled in multiple ways: direct participation in election, influencing and injecting the European elections, or working on the electoral law. Avi Candeli on stage, Eumans member.
Thank you. Yes, as a human member, I'm not really interested in this moment about the political election of the next spring, so I will not discuss about that. But I will be glad to discuss about which are our goals, which electoral election can be a way to reach the goals. But the main goal for why we are here, when we can discuss them, if we have some strategy, etc., maybe after the break. Thank you.
Thank you, Avi. Good point. Yes. So the idea now is to have a little coffee break, and then we will present the proposal for the final motion of the Eumans Congress, and there will be a good hour of debate either on the text of the motion through amendments, potentially other changes in our statute, etc., but also some more internal, but we have proven that internal and external are combined by reflection on Eumans as such. So if the motion reflects our goal and whether we should add something or bring something to the first Eumans member assembly. I remind also that the Eumans members meet every 3 months for the members assembly. So we try to somehow accompany the year of works with this moment. So next hour will be dedicated specifically to what you're asking. And thanks for raising the point and allow me to explain better the program. I saw a hand from Sofia. Right.
Sorry, I'll let you have your coffee. If you're interested, we launched a petition on the website of the European Federalist Movement. Unfortunately, it's in Italian, but Google can help us out because there's the automatic translation because it's from the Italian section. So if you go on the website, MFE Italia, there's this petition. We're just asking the European Council, European Parliament to actually implement the proposal that came from the Conference on the Future of Europe. So to speed up the process and implement the proposals. That's just it. Just give it a read. If you agree with our petition, please sign it. Thanks.
Thank you, Sofia, because you allowed me to connect another dot. If you visit the website of Citizens Takeover Europe, a bit in the same spirit, you find two other documents that are a follow-up of the Conference on the Future of Europe. And I think it's very encouraging to see different action, and I think it's in the spirit of Eumans to connect them. One is the blueprint for a European Citizen Assembly. It was mentioned before by Niccolò Milanese and Michele Fiorillo, who is one of the coordinators of this work. Can maybe in the coffee break explain you more about it. It's a document, a very thorough document on how a European Citizen Assembly should look like, and it's a crowdsourcing based approach to the document. So you can also contribute to that. There is a questionnaire on how an ideal Trans-European Assembly should look like. And secondly, Citizens Takeover Europe took the lead with some of the citizens that were part of the citizens panel of the Conference on the Future of Europe for a petition to the European Parliament on an adequate follow-up to the Conference on the Future of Europe. So I think these seeds of initiatives are a bit the knots in our net. That is a bit what we are discussing today. So I suggest, unless Marco has some final points, we have a 15 minutes coffee break. We meet here at 11:45, and we start the Eumans documents discussion, and we keep on the discussion also based on what we said this morning. Thanks a lot, and see you in a bit. Okay. So thanks everyone. Last hour and 5 minutes of work for this Citizen Summit as well as Humans Congress. So first of all, the next part of the debate, if someone still has considerations on the summit, on the follow-up, on the elections, etc., take the floor. Maybe in this phase, we ask you also to try to connect to the work that humans can do for you in this perspective to a certain extent, because this is the final phase of the Congress in itself, and also because we put, as I said also in my introductory remarks, all our energies for the past months, but also weeks on this specific approach, the coordination of the potential networks, et cetera, and the way how we go forward should be shared as much as possible. Whilst Lorenzo finalized the documents that we want to prepare, I also want to use this moment, first of all, to thank each one of you who attended the works of the Citizen Summit, because maybe this is a bit of a follow-up to Marco Perduca comment, but it's also true that we weren't so much, but we were people really committed to this process. And these that we are discussing exist only in the measure that it's a body commitment. Put your body, your heart, your mind where your ideals are a little bit. So really thanks for everyone to the contribution to the works, to the preparatory works, to the discussions, and so forth and so on. And then I also want to thank the entire team who made this possible, starting from the collaboration between European Alternatives and Humans. So I thank the EA European Alternatives team, Marco, but name by name, hoping to not forget anyone, Elena Ramvello, who is the Master of Operations and Logistics, and who held our team together.
Bravo, Elena.
Lorenzo Mineo, who is the Humans administrator, takes care of our internal processes and money, but we can always do better. Sofia Ingrid Viviani, who is doing an internship with Humans, but she's the super activist, so thanks, Sofia. Saga Smith from Science for Democracy, who took care of our social media channels. Very good. We discovered some new skills here on social media management. Marie Ronsmans, who worked with Science for Democracy over the summer, and she discovered as well new skills in tech coordination. It was one of the most difficult tasks for the event, so thanks, Marie, for this. And I hope I didn't forget. And thanks to me.
Thank you. Brava, Virginia. Jessica.
And Jessica Sanson, who from Associazione Luca Coscioni, who remotely helped us with all the technical parts, so thanks to Jessica, and Antonio Scaramello, social media manager of Humans. So thanks a lot to all of you, really. Okay, so we move to the next phase. Maybe Lorenzo, can you walk us through the steps?
Thank you very much. So you all received an email from the platform Eligo, in which we will find credentials for
the members.
Oh yes, of course. So of course, I'm talking now to all the Humans members. So you have 15 minutes to subscribe your membership of Humans if you want to take part to this voting phase. And you members received an email with the credentials to enter on the Eligo platform, on which the online voting will take place in 15 minutes, and we will vote on the formal documents that you can find on the website of Humans, humans.eu, which are the annual budget and the general motion and the candidacy of the co-presidents. Once that you consult the documents, then you can access in 15 minutes in the Eligo platform and vote for our documents. So I think that now is a good moment to read the only general motion that has been until now submitted by the co-presidents in charge. So I will start reading, if you agree.
You read it? Fine. Read it.
Okay, the second Congress of Humans held in the context of the Citizen Summit Democracy, Ecology and Liberty Beyond Borders confirms the commitment of the movement to promote direct, participatory and deliberative democracy through civic initiatives and non-violence at the pan-European level after the works held in Dansk from 17 to 19 March 2023. The Congress takes note of the introductory presentation of its two co-presidents. The Congress expressed its gratitude and support for the work that the leadership of the movement has promoted during the last 12 months to strengthen the network of contacts that have allowed the coordination and preparation of different groups and organizations from Europe to co-design a set of proposals to govern pressing issue at the pan-European level. The Congress thanks the leaders and members of European Alternatives and the coalition Citizens Take Over Europe for their active participation in the preparatory phases of the Civic Summit in Bologna on the 4th February, as well as in its plenary, and for their contribution in structuring debates and possible European initiatives, and the individual groups and political movements who contributed to the preparatory works. The last 12 months have been a crucial test for the European Union, its institution and its civil society as the war against Ukraine continued. The Congress believes that though it's still necessary, there cannot be a military solution for a durable and sustainable peace in Ukraine and around Central and Eastern Europe if political and justice-related responses will not be put in place swiftly. To this end, the Congress relaunches Humans Appeal EUkrainenow.eu for the immediate inclusion of Ukraine into the European Union as the political project to strengthen democracy across the board and open the doors for civic and democratic participation of the Ukrainian people in the European decision-making process. The Congress invites participants and attendees to share the appeal all over the continent to urge the EU Council and Commission to do their utmost to accelerate the accession process. The Congress welcomes the work done by Ukrainian and international and independent investigators to document and map the widespread and systematic violation of international humanitarian law in Ukraine and hopes that the first indictments for those responsible for the horrible crimes perpetrated since 24th February 2022 will be issued soon.
But this, of course, was written before the indictment.
Yes. At the same time, the Congress renovates Humans Appeal to the Ukrainian institution to finally recognize the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court to allow trials to start without delay in The Hague. The Congress encourages the participation of Ukrainian citizens in the synchronized initiative for a pan-European government of Europe. The Congress is concerned that on the war, ecological issue, personal self-determination, as well as on the rescue and reception of thousands of people that are fleeing their country to escape conflict, persecution, discrimination, famine, poverty, or who wish to build a better future in another part of the world, the EU has not always responded swiftly or in line with the institutional obligation stemming from the dozens of international instruments of human rights that we recognize as our Bill of Rights. If the Pan-European Parliament has been heard in its vocal criticism of inadequate, if not illegal, behaviors of the Council, the Commission and several member states' civil society recommendation, starting from those adopted by the Conference on the Future of Europe, have been bureaucratically accepted but not taken into serious political consideration. The Congress does not believe that the Vox Populi is Vox Dei, but is convinced that civil society can play a more comprehensive role in suggesting concrete political proposals, also on issues that may not be allowed by the instrument of the European Citizens' Initiatives. The Congress salutes the quality of the three-day debate in Dansk and the proposals that have been shared during the discussion, and urges the leadership of Eumans to take stock of what proposed to complement the proposal that have been agreed upon by participants. The Congress believes that no participatory instrument provided by EU should be left unused. A combination of European initiatives by the European Citizens' Initiative, self-organized citizen assembly, direct actions of civil disobedience, and other form of non-violent initiative carried out in a coordinated fashion around Europe can become a magnet for persons and organizations that wish to be active at the continental level to affirm the international rule of law and the respect of fundamental human rights of the people that live inside the EU or at its border. The Congress recognized the importance of an adequate follow-up to the Conference on the Future of Europe as an innovative, reformative, citizens-led process which can offer new legitimacy to citizens' proposals, urges the maximum possible cooperation and coordination to promote, if possible, as a package of pan-European reforms, initiative through an ecosystem of direct and participatory democracy process on European Citizens' Initiative and broad pan-European action. 1. Strengthening European democracy. 2. Exit fossil fuel by 2035. 3. A human rights-centered approach to cannabis. 4. Voluntary assisted dying as a human right. 5. Abortion as a fundamental right. Then support to existing European initiative. 1. Stop border violence. 2. Ensuring a dignified reception of migrants in Europe. 3. Unconditional Basic Income European Citizens' Initiative. 4. Access to psychedelic medicines. Cognizant that participatory democracy reaches its peak during election, the Congress urges the leadership to promote an exploratory committee that, building on the experience, expertise, people and organization met during the last 12 months, can take into consideration the possibility of promoting electoral lists for the 2024 European election in as many EU member states as possible. Those lists or candidacy in existing or new political groupings should adopt the package of proposal as the basis of an electoral platform and commitments for political activity once elected. The Congress invite persons that have followed the meeting in Dansk or that shared the proposal contained in this motion to join Eumans for the next 12 months. Then there is a final Citizen Summit statement. After 3 days of discussion, the Citizen Summit invites all interested persons to become part of the exploratory committee of the Pan-European Government Plan coordinated by Eumans and European Alternatives. Individuals and/or organizations are invited to express their interest or support for the comprehensive reform plan and/or for one or selected European Citizens' Initiative and contribute to their comprehensive strategy, campaigning, programming and fundraising activities. The Citizen Summit urges all interested persons to share the outcome of the Dansk event with a list of initiatives with a view of strengthening and/or expanding existing networks to collaborate towards the preparation of a 12-month campaign to collect signatures on one or more European citizen initiative or to pursue the same goals enshrined in the initiatives through other activities. Okay. Now that the reading of the general motion is finished, we have formally 5 minutes before officially opening to vote, because we put in the order of the votes 12 and 15. So in theory, there are the last 5 minutes. I remember to all of you that you can consult all the documents in the website 2023 Eumans Congress in the Eumans.eu website. So you can find the other documents. I will check now that all the operation regarding the opening of the vote are okay in these last couple of minutes, and I give the floor to the co-presidents, and will inform you as soon as we open the procedures.
Thank you, Lorenzo, for reading the motion. So we wait for those following online, on YouTube, etc. If you're a Eumans member, I invite you to check in a few minutes your email so that you see if you have received the illegal credentials for the next phase. We already have, I can already say that we have a little amendment to the motion in the part that says that we hope that the first indictments for those responsible for the horrible crimes perpetrated since 24 February 2002 will be issued soon, which is referred to Vladimir Putin, of course. We will change this, we suggest to change the sentence with welcomes the indictment of Vladimir Putin for war crimes issued on 17th March by the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. So the motion reflects the political facts. And yes, we should confirm that we want to be the candidate for Eumans. So the candidate presidents are, I mean, I candidate myself. Marco, don't surprise me, but I candidate myself for being the Eumans Co-president for the next year. And we need you.
Me too, thanks.
You know, just in case. But yes, so let's keep this final phase with my battery running out. So I ask Marie to monitor Zoom because I'm gonna lose Zoom
and also
in a
to
bit.
Speak as you promised. Yes, yeah. So you have the floor.
So yes, let's use this final phase to comments on the motion. If you feel, I mean, I don't know how the amendments phase could work. I'm the most anarchist among us after Cappato. So how the amendments part work exactly. But let's have maybe some additional reflections on the motion, the implementation of these motions, and some needs that we can and we should take into account as in the next year. For example, I have a couple of points that not necessarily need to be reflected in any statutory change or in the motion. But I would say one aspect that should be a priority for next year is, on one side, the constitution of these networks of initiative around the European Citizen Initiative. It was an important effort, a sort of a leadership effort as well, to kick off this phase, to, as we say in Italian, to throw our heart a bit beyond the obstacle or raise the bar very high. But I also do believe that these committees can work only if there is an existing leadership within each one of them that is not necessarily myself or Marco. So that's the first important point for reflection that I bring here. The second aspect, which I think it's a point of reflection and action, is how to combine those of us who has the honor and the luck of being professionally activists every day with the different type of level of commitments, but also expertise and knowledge that comes from those who had other work-life experiences, but then can contribute to the movement. I think as academic, I learned with the European University Institute people that is very trendy to say there is a tension between the political activism as a profession and the enthusiasm, energy, and competencies, the urgencies of volunteers. And I think keep working on this is something important. And I would say that maybe for the next Eumans Assembly in 3 months, we put some thoughts around these internal organization mechanisms. I have some ideas that I can mention not as statutory changes, but as ideas, like a shadow co-presidencies, for example, where some activists are somehow shadowing myself and Marco in the management of the of the organization of the movement, or like how this citizens committee can be reflected in the Eumans board, or other ideas that, as I said, that we don't necessarily to change the rules, although I really like the sentence that Antonio Argenziano said earlier, structures are not neutral. So I think also the way how we function and we operate, it's part of the type of movement that we want to be. I think we realize that we are a fluid movement, a modular movement. As we said many times, not all the initiatives are the same, not all the people involved are the same, but I think we need to reflect this fluidity and also increase the cooperative approach within the movement to manage the movement itself. So some points that I think for me are important in thinking about next year and also this new phase that we are starting. I don't know if Marco has some other observations. We can keep the mic open and the vote is officially open. So if you are a member and you didn't receive your credentials, please send an email to info@eumans.eu, which I hope is being monitored either by Jessica or Lorenzo. The floor is yours. I see some people joined a bit later this morning, so any other points on the objective of discussion for these 3 days can be still made.
Yes, everyone who needs help for the voting procedure can...
Yeah. And Jessica has written the email. Maybe, Avi, since you asked for a bit of further debate on the goals, basically the motion is the goals, so if you have comments on that, or like if you had any thoughts that you wanted to share while you raised the point earlier, maybe this is a good time. Not to throw you in under the bus, as they say, but that's because you mentioned that you wanted this moment, so that's the moment.
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple of points on the Citizen Summit statement. Do we all agree that the Exploring Committee is about the pan-European government plan or about the collection of FCI that you want to launch or relaunch? ACI, sorry. And the other point, so the first question is if our goal is the pan-European government plan or to select and collect the ACI which we believe are most needed by the European citizens. And that we can also assure an effective support with actions, I don't mean maybe day by day, but maybe just with some action. And the other point is to collaborate towards the preparation of a 12-month campaign to collect signature on one or more of a 12-month campaign. But if we agree that we are open and flexible, that other ACI will enter, maybe we could just say to collaborate towards the preparation of long-lasting campaign to collect signature.
12 months is strictly linked to the legal terms for collecting signature, but this
yes,
does not mean...
They not start all the same day. One
yes,
arrive from we can...
It should be read as for each ECI there are 12 months to collect signature. This is the meaning of the word.
Towards the preparation of 12 different 12-month campaign. Maybe it's the problem is 12-month campaign or the 12-month campaign needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Vi. So I reread the sentence, so maybe if someone wants to help to amend it slightly. With a view of strengthening and or expanding existing networks to collaborate towards the preparation of a 12-month campaign to collect signatures on one or more European citizen initiative, or to pursue the same goals enshrined in the initiative through other activities. Maybe it's not a 12-month campaign, but a synchronized 12 months campaign or more like it's true that it's a bit...
we can even remove 12 months so that we know that the campaign has already started, because the campaign is not just collecting signature, is also the preparation of the collection of signature. So maybe if we just erase 12 months, we know that then the campaign can integrate in a different level and moment the specific issues. That's my proposal, just to erase 12 months.
And I'm also looking if there is any reference to the European elections calendar, because one point is also to have them, as you said also in your introduction, to have them in any case significantly connected to the European elections. So maybe we can suggest the amendment of removing the 12 months. And maybe we could add at the end something like, in particular, using the opportunity offered by the European elections 2024. So in this way is more contextual. That would be the proposal.
You want to say something, Avi? Sorry.
We still keep the connection. It's very important to keep the connection that our initiatives, the goal is to be relevant during the electoral campaign and not the issues.
Now wait, in which sense?
We could even start our ACI, the last ACI of the package, we could be ready 2 weeks before the electoral election, or maybe the month after it would be ready. Is it connected to have an impact on the electoral election, or the electoral election is just one of the ways that we could use, one of the possibilities that we have to make more relevant and maybe engaging? It's
okay, so I think removing the 12-month campaign,
how do you say in English?
Means and ends.
Yes, our ends is to be relevant in the electoral election, or to reach the goal of the ACI, or to impose on the public debate, but not necessarily connected to the European election. And change a little bit the vision, the mean of the goal. So the electoral election are a mean for reach our goal, the Eumans goal, or the ACI are the means to reach an electoral goal. It's not clear, maybe, for me.
No, the elections are the space where our demands can have more visibility, something like this. But it's a bit in the last paragraph of the technical motion, because if we go back to that point, it said, can take into consideration the possibility of promoting electoral lists for the 2024 European election in as many member states as possible. Those lists of candidates in existing or new political groupings should adopt the package of proposal as the basis of an electoral platform and commitments for political activities once elected. So somehow these cover the past, the future, those already in parliament, those not.
The package includes every and each of the proposal. I would not now play too much of with the language, because then we will see. But yes, but the strategy, it doesn't mean that according to the language that you use, you change the strategy. And the text is saying that there is a package of proposal, but then it doesn't say that we have to keep it bundled together in a forced way, and we have to do everything all at once, as the movie one the Oscar, I mean, the text allows flexibility, and the flexibility will depend on the political opportunity that will be presented to us. Also, according to the reply that we will be able to gather in the coming weeks on those proposals. So I think that the language used keep open the possibility of, for example, starting only with one ECI, because it is the ECI on which we are ready and the others are not. I mean, we are not obliged by this text to go one way or the other way around. It's a text that keeps flexibility on the strategy. And I think it should remain like that, because we are not now in the condition or in the position of deciding exactly what timing, on which proposal we will start.
This is why, just for the same, to be more flexible, the word package, I think that everybody can imagine it as a box. Are you interested in the box? Or I would find a way that leaves everybody free to choose the ACI, and then maybe they will buy the package. But for me, I have two different meanings. Maybe it's not. Okay.
Maybe, so in my opinion, the fact that the synchronization of multiple topics is essential, because it's design an intersectional vision, and I think we discussed a lot during these days of how each topic carries the other, some elements of interconnection are existing. Maybe packages, fortunately, is how do you say, tra virgolette? So it's in brackets, so it's a term that we use to talk about the mechanism of intersecting the topics. And the idea behind how this was drafted is that each one can take 1, 2, 1 million of ECIs, because there might be ECIs that we don't even know about yet, because they're going to be promoted by citizens committees independently from us that we might want to onboard. So I think having package in brackets allows us to give a sense of something that has a shared vision. If we want to make amendments, maybe it's about to make explicit that who adopt the package can cherry pick what they want. But again, I think it's clear enough that it's a modular approach, particularly in the statement of the Citizen Summit.
Flavia.
Yes, I would like to make a linguistic suggestion, because it's true, package gives this sense of a box, even if we put it in inverted comma. If we were to replace it with something like a set of, a set is something that goes together, so it underlines the interconnectedness without putting everything necessarily in a box. That would be a way, perhaps, to solve this issue. The inverted commas are always a little bit iffy in resolutions of any type. So I would suggest maybe considering series of or set of, and leaving the package out.
A United Nations experienced negotiator, I think, imposes us to follow your expertise. So set off, would it be satisfactory? Fantastic.
And now everyone...
I was falling in the trap and starting a discussion on the fact that the package, you can open it, that it was not a closed package, but a package, but then set off, solve the thing at the root. So thank you very much.
Okay. And also welcome to the work that was done for the past months on the European Citizen Initiative is more or less like this. So just to get a sense of the experience. Okay, so we removed a 12-month campaign at the end, so that somehow it's it gives the sense of the time, flexibility, and set of proposals instead of package, which is also probably a bit nicer. Maybe I ask Lorenzo to take care of these suggestions. No, you can't. No, I'll do it.
Michele Fiorillo, you have some closing remarks? No? Okay, I thought you were coming. Okay, I thought you were coming to the podium. Okay, so of course we are not obliged to remain until the last minute, but we seize the opportunity of this last half an hour also for other comments, even not on the text.
I need to vote. Did you vote?
You have to vote. Yes, I have voted. I voted. Yes.
Classic me.
So we keep the microphone open a few minutes more, even if at this time nobody asked for the floor. I don't know if maybe someone, Michele Fiorillo, fall in the trap. Fall in the trap. Come on, Michele. No, come on, Michele. You fall in the trap. So
but we want to calculate how many topics can Michele Fiorillo put in one speech. Like how many?
This is it's about comms. As we know now, communications, unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know, are a bit at the essence of politics. So, and I was thinking, because in Italy, this coalition is quite strong also, thanks to the presence of Marco, particular Marco, also other people, particularly Marco Cappato. I think it's essential for this coalition of campaigns to coalesce also, now you say influencers, or public opinion leader maybe, also in other countries. So maybe we have to do a reflection about that. So how to, ideally in each of the 27 member states, have someone able to influence strongly or at least a little bit the public opinion of that given country. Because yes, transnational activism, but then you have to be, say, you have to go local. In this case, you have to go to speak in the language of this given country. And also to favor that, last thing I say now, is maybe let's prepare a sort of calendar of mobilizations of squares. So without we are asked to say, okay, let's meet in this place. We know that in all over Europe there are struggles going on. If we look to Italy, I mean, there are. I mean, just because it's the context, I know more. I guess also you, Marco, know more. You see, there are squares that are taken over also by political leaders. So why not to be there? I mean, I know that you are with Virginia and Lorenzo, etc. You are already there sometime for Ukraine, etc. But there are other struggles, workers' rights, etc. I think we should be there in Italy and in other countries. So maybe it could be also a call to all the partners of DCI and Then the other thing is about the pan-European movement. I mean, I didn't interfere in the Congress of Humans because I'm a friend of Humans. I'm not a member of Humans. But because here there is also Niccolò Milanese, who is director, co-founder of European Alternatives, but also chair, or one of the chairs of the coalition Citizens Take Over Europe. I think, I mean, I insist for once more time, because of what I said before, that we need more people like Marco in all the countries. I think this Citizen Take Over Europe or something other that we can rename in another way could be the model for a pan-European movement. So you have organizations like Humans, they are more influent in Italy, but they try to go transnational. That is really good because we need also this type of politics in Italy, this perspective in Italy. You have other type of this organization already there, European Alternatives, etc. The point is how to bridge all these organizations. Citizen Take Over Europe was a way to do it for the Conference on the Future of Europe. My opinion, there is the political space to create really a pan-European movement. I don't know if the federation is the model, because also for the European Union, many people say, no, federation is too much. But in a way, I see the same analogy. So the member states of the European Union are stronger together. Now there are a confederation towards a federation, they say, no, political analysts. So at the same time, I think Citizen Take Over Europe could move towards a stronger confederation and have also the possibility, differently to the European Union, where you cannot be citizen of the European Union without being member of a member state. I think it would be important also to have a membership of Citizen Takeover Europe as such. And to do that also, to empower all the organizations of Citizen Takeover Europe, I think we should share resources to build up a strong platform of political participation and deliberation online, also strengthening the offline, using, for instance, the CDIM platform that was used by Indignados to make this movement permanent in a way, and they managed then to take over the municipality of Barcelona, then use the CDIM as an institutional key, and now even the Commission is using the CDIM for very badly as usual. I mean, just with the little settings, not really mobilizing people, but we could use the CDIM to mobilize people to be all over Europe. We know, I mean, I don't know if Francesca knows, it's not today here. Volt Europe made a good job on the line of what DN25, after we have to say European alternatives, maybe was the first. I mean, just to focus, sorry, historically. No, so they made, and I finished, they tried to do transnational politics. DN25 more the left spectrum, and Volt more in the center, left center, I don't know. But I think both are not enough, these both organizations, for different reasons. And there is still a political space at the transnational level. Waiting for the transnational list, surely will not be this one, but next European election, I mean, the one after these ones, maybe we will have. Or we will have to counter a commission, a center-right commission, so we will need even more this transnational force. And so, yeah, this is just a call again to join forces, to do a consortium, as you called it, also, about self-organizing things.
Thank you. Thank you, Michele. But maybe, I mean, it's not really the issue of being long or short, is that during this meeting, we proposed a method. The method is to unite forces on a specific task without obliging everybody to agree on everything, but at the same time, without defining the goal of being united before saying to be united for what. So it's a different, I would call it a method of thinking. What you said, if I try to brutalize in a summary, is maybe the opposite, not opposite because we are against, because you are here, and thank you for being here and to participate to our work. But I think that it will not be successful to take the fact of being united as a goal in the first place, and then to decide what to do. I think it works the other way around. We have a set of proposals, European Citizen Initiative. They could also be European Citizen Initiatives. This set, thank you, Flavia, is open in two meanings. Is open because other issues can come and be added. Open because those texts are not completely closed yet. They are still draft. And it's open also in a third meaning, that every organization can also cherry pick one or more of those proposals without choosing the others. So this is the method that we are following. Then, if as a consequence of that, there would be the possibility and capability of reinforcing, maybe through a digital platform, as you suggested, maybe with a stronger mechanism of coalition to strengthen the relationship among people and organizations. They are more or less interested to this project. I totally agree with you that this has to be done, and we don't have to ignore any possibility that will be presented to us. So, but starting and taking the issue from the goals and not from the organization. I think this is important to insist as a method that we are trying to pursue.
Okay, yes, just a couple of words.
The vote is open until when? Just
we said still for 20, yes, at 1 o'clock, okay. Still for 20 minutes. But I just would like to say just a couple of words regarding the budget, since some of you were requesting explanation. Actually, since Eumans is still an Italian association, and this is one of the issues and the topic on which we are engaged, the attempt of becoming a European association, something that currently doesn't exist. So we have to fit with the Italian, of course, regulation of budgetary laws. So you will see a budget that is the result of the 2022 activities, the moment in which we close the budgetary activities regarding the association. So you will see a total of 78,195 euros of expenditures and a total of 95,147 euros of revenues. And this is, of course, the result, as you can see from the budget on the website, of mainly fundraising activities. You can see in the details the voice of expenditures, and most of these revenue we collected are from the experience of the last summer list for election in Italy, during which we collected digital signature doing civic disobedience for that. And so this is mainly the result of the budget of the current of the last year, 2022. So for every detail, you can consult the budget on the website, and of course the struggle for European and pan-European association is something we keep on being active. So,
thank you. Thank you, Lorenzo. Also to remind the members, but everyone, that that's also one of the reasons why the Eumans membership goes from 1st of November until 31st of October. So basically, we don't, since we are not a political party and we don't need to stick to the 2 per mille law or stuff like that, we can have the Congress whenever we want. Basically, there is no obligation for that. So that's why we basically vote on the budget of 2022. And then I also want to remember that Eumans members have the quarterly members' assemblies as well as an opportunity both of budget revision, discussion on the statute and the rules, and the other mechanisms.
Okay, if there is no other requests for speaking, I don't know if we want to check if there is anyone by remote who want to speak, but in this case, of course, we will keep the vote open because we cannot close it right now, and in 20 minutes we will have the results, but we don't need to stay here waiting for the result. Flavia.
Just a technical question, because I assume that the 2 co-presidents were standing for re-elections, but if I try to, the voting hasn't started on my iPad, so we can't vote for you. You may want to.
No, I think that it is possible, so maybe there is some technical problem because... okay. Don't worry, Flavia. Okay. Yes, for those, lo dico in italiano perché magari qualcuno che ci sente a distanza.
I'm going to say this in Italian for those attending online. You have to go on the bottom part of the website where you can vote. You can click and vote.
Passare alla pagina
and then
successiva.
The system will take you to the following page. And page by page, you will complete the voting process.
That we suspend, and we will go back to the formal closing of the Congress in 15 minutes. But we can maybe now give the floor to Virginia for the informal closing of the Congress.
The informal closing, okay. No, so I think also this last part of the debate on the set of proposals, the package, the relationship with elections, but also the points brought by Michele Fiorillo, which I think they cannot be solved today, but I think how these different coalitions overlaps, intertwined, and where are the points of collaboration, it's something that should be discussed also within the coalition Citizens Take Over Europe, who is formally taking the lead of one of the European Citizen Initiative, which is already an important spot. And secondly, is going to be a key partner of the European University Institute on the so-called Democracy Odyssey for the self-organized European Assembly in Athens next year. So I think these things that are happening are, of course, a strengthening of the collaboration between humans with Citizens Take Over Europe, but also new political and methodological points in the European public sphere, alongside with what Antonio Argenziano said with regards to the Federalist. So I think I partially agree with, I mainly agree with what Marco said, but I think also the other reason why I think next year is important is because we are keep testing some of the efforts that were done by the different organizations. I think going too quickly to decisions of who is the membership-based organization, who is the organization-based organization might be premature, but I also believe that politically we are all living a new shift in the European public sphere in terms of how different organizations with different demands cooperate through the strengthening of democracy aspect in particular. So I think this next year is also an opportunity to really put politics at the forefront and also refine and define how the different groups goes together. In my opinion, it's essential to share resources, whether they are economical or experiential, academical, or political. But I would say let's keep testing, because, for example, what I can say from my perspective is that Citizens Take Over Europe is extremely based on organizations in the sense of how the coalition is formalized, but then is based on the individual labor that is brought to the coalition. At the same time, Humans, I think, has more flexibility, but being more political in its approach than the coalition, to be the ninja that brings together the people at the right moment. So I think we shouldn't rush decisions on that, but it's definitely a matter of the European civil society, how it operates. Lorenzo mentioned the European Statute Association related to our budget and works, but I think this is also another aspect. We are constrained into national type of entities and legal entities, while we should have also a sort of transnationality in how organizations are built. So I think this is not only food for thought, but food for action, and I think it's an important point. But so that's coming to the summit. As I said earlier, I think it's been quite an important experiment, and the responsibility that we all feel, I think it's about how to broaden this intuition, expand this intuition that we got. But also, I was speaking briefly with Niccolò Milanese before he left, how to make more efficient the communication, not of the goals, but also of the how to take part in the process, how the process can be joined, how it can be carried on. And for these, the need of investments in technological resources in terms of the technology, but also the design behind these collaborative experiences is going to be one of the things that we need to look at more carefully in the coming months, because it's true that political work is relational work, as someone says, so relationship and care of the relationship is important, but also find ways where it's not too complicated to follow things, understand where processes are, how processes can be onboarded, how different type of entities collaborate with each other is a bit of a challenge, but it's also something that makes our efforts more efficient and therefore impactful. So this is one of the takeaways for me from this summit and this Congress. So this is some informal reflections. Keep up being cool as we are.
Ok, così. Grazie. Grazie, thank you very much. See you next time. Grazie. Sì, bene. Grazie. Bene.
We'll be back in time for finishing.
Va bene, si può anche andare. No, dico loro.